Elio guys, and welcome back. And today's video though is a updated version of Verde because she has some slight changes since the last video, which was like a couple years ago. So with her returning to, I figured this would be a great time, especially for newer players if you're interested in picking her up, to find out which one may be worth it to help your account progress through MSL. So without further ado, let's go ahead and alright, so starting off here with Verde, she's a balanced type and she's coming in with 27k HP, nearly 2.6k attack, and then also 2.6k defense. I mean, as a balanced Nat 4, it makes sense here. Her stat distribution is nothing spectacular at all. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing amazing about it, but you know, you have to work with what you have to work with. But do keep in mind though, since she is a rebirth Nat 4, you have to sacrifice a whole bunch of Nat 4s if you wanted to get this baby girl any of these kinds to Evo 3. So you want to make sure that you're picking one that's worth your time, and let's see if she's actually worth your time here. So for her 3-star skill, she has blind, which grants 80% chance to blind the enemy for 2 turns. Blinded foes' critical hit rate and damage are reduced. That's the main selling point of blind here. And then for her 5-star skill, she has Courageous Strike, and she is also an AoE, just in case you're curious about that, though it wouldn't matter in a Titan situation because this is purely just a Titan's Mon. I don't really see the point of bringing blind in anywhere else in the game. Elemental Tide of Chaos and all that stuff, we have Draka. Why would you bring in Verde? Not judging you, but also judging you. Also, even in Colossus, if you needed a Courageous Striker, I would prefer, even if it's someone weaker, with a 3-star Courageous Strike skill versus a 5-star one. So very lackluster in this department here. Taking a look at books though, blind receives a 15% damage boost and goes up to 90% for 2 turns, I want to say. Yep, and then Courageous Strike receives a whopping 20% damage boost as well. Overall, I would say that she's very lackluster at this point in the game. She hasn't had any recent buffs that I can think of. I don't think she was one of the Verdes that got touched. A 2.6k attack stat isn't terrible, but when you factor in that her Courageous Strike isn't even on her 3-star skill, meaning you're going to need to have orbs and SP going to her to be able to get that off anywhere near reliably, means her potential damage threshold is basically based on RNG, and you never want that with a Courageous Striker. So in this case, I honestly just don't recommend it. Like, it's just too much sacrifice for too little reward. Now, if you don't have any other fire Courageous Strikers, though I do believe you get either Shinobi or Wukong from the Hero Dungeon. I think it's Shinobi. I could be wrong. Maybe it's Wukong. You do get one of those from the Hero's Dungeon, so just do that and pick that up instead, because this right here, Chief called and he said this ain't it. Following in behind that though, we do have Water Verde, who's a balanced type as well. She's coming in with 32k HP, 2.5k attack, and also 2.5k defense. So it looks like they lowered her attack and defense slightly and gave her like 5k more HP. That's a pretty chunky amount for her HP for her to be a balanced type here. But let's take a look at her skills. So for her 3-star skill, she has Petrification, which grants a 100% chance to petrify the target for 1 turn. If you're new to the game, Petrification acts just like another form of crowd control, like stunning. However, the target that is petrified can't act, but they take literally like no damage at all. So it's not the best crowd control at all. It's just really not. And then for her 5-star skill, she has Seal, which grants a 70% chance to seal the enemy's passive skills for 2 turns. And let's see over here with books. So Petrification still stays at 100%, but it does get a whopping, what is that, 25% damage boost. And Seal basically gets a 20% damage boost as well. Overall, once again, very lackluster. If you're going for the Astro Guide like I have, this is perfectly fine. But if you're thinking about using her, I wouldn't. There's just cheaper and better options. I'm not a big fan of Petrification. The only Astromon, in my opinion, that really gets away with it is Water Persephone, and you can once again get her from the Hero's Dungeon. Seal isn't bad, but with this kit, it literally promotes her making sure that the other team can't really act with their passive skills, but also can't really take damage because they're going to be petrified if they get past resist. So it's like, just not good. Just not good. Alright, and then coming up next though, we do have Verde, who's a tank type, and she's coming in here with 44k HP, 1.9k attack, and then 2k defense. So plenty of HP as a tank type, as she should, and that's pretty much all I have to say about her. Taking a look at her skills though, she has, for her 3-star skill, attack down, which grants a 70% chance to reduce the enemy's attack for 2 turns, and then for her 5-star skill, which is defense down, once again 70% chance to reduce the enemy's defense for 2 turns. So this baby girl right here is nothing but pure debuffing, which also brings up another thing I want to talk about here after we take a look at her skills. So attack down receives a 20% damage boost, and it goes up to, what was that, 80% for 2 turns, and then defense down is once again 20% damage boost and 80% for 2 turns, if I'm reading correctly here. Yep, so she has a debuffing kit, right, which is cool. However, think about what situations where you need a wood Astromon especially to do debuffs. Can you think of anything? I'm saying that because think about, especially from a Titan's standpoint, like I wouldn't see any reason to bring this in PvE. Why debuff whatever that you're fighting in PvE when you can just kill it? It's just simple as is. Same thing with the Elemental Tower of Chaos. Why bring in a debuff like this if you can just kill it? And we also have a lovely skill called Weaken. Now I'm not saying that the other debuffs, which are just more potent, are worse than Weaken. But when you have limited slots on your Titans teams and you're sacrificing all these Nat 4s to get this isn't, the play of the game. This baby girl right here can only debuff. She doesn't bring anything else to the table. So, I mean, to chalk it up here, she's just another unfortunate waste of a slot, in my opinion, unless you're going for the guide. Alright, and then coming in hot next is going to be Light Verde, who's a tank type. This is what people have been waiting for, the light and dark versions of the Nat 4 Rebirth Mons. And she's coming in with nearly 39k HP, 1.8k attack, and then 2.3k defense. So her stats are a little bit less than the wood one. I mean, the wood one had a decently higher HP pool, but I mean, she is a light mon, so I would expect her stats to be slightly better. But I guess it is what it is at the end of the day. Oh well, let's take a look at her skills though. So for her 3-star skill, she has SP Siphon, which the attack siphons 30% of the enemy's SP. This is another form of crowd control where she can kind of prevent the enemy from getting off their 5-star skill, which is very important because you don't want certain enemies like Dark Merlin, for example, to get off his 5-star skill, because if that dude's booked up as well and you know that your team has very poor resist, well, congratulations, you're going to be cussing. And then for her 5-star skill, she has Adrenaline, which attacks restore allies HP in amount equal to 10% of her own max HP. So already we get a big hint of how you should build her, especially with her being a tank type. Yes, their typage in the game doesn't really dictate how their gems should go, but in this scenario, not only does her HP line up, but also her 5-star skill lines up with her HP, meaning you probably should go ahead and build her on triple recovery here. But taking a look at the skill books, SP Siphon goes up to, what was that, 35%. Oh, even though I read it was 30%, I thought it was 25, because 25 is pretty much like the standard 20 or 25%, but 35% SP Siphon, that's really not that bad at all. With a 20% damage boost, she has a 1.8k attack stat. That doesn't do anything. And then Adrenaline also receives a 20% damage boost. No upgrade to Adrenaline at all. I was hoping with her having less HP that we could get that 5% extra of Adrenaline, but apparently not. But definitely just a PvP mon. Once again, with like Colossus and stuff of that nature, I don't really see a point in bringing it in there if you have DPS. For the Elemental Tower of Chaos here, we also have a beautiful thing called Light Draka, and if you're fortunate enough to have mons like Light Arthur, they could also get a similar job done for you there. But yeah, overall, I mean, a decent PvP mon, especially if you're a newer player and you somehow have the Nat 4 sitting around. I don't see this as a terrible investment because you could always take her once she has done her due diligence and slide her over to Clan vs Clan, or slide her over to the freaking Champions League whenever you get a chance. Like, I still think she's usable. She's nowhere near top tier, but she's usable at least for what you get out of sacrificing, what is that, like 48 freaking Nat 4s? Alright, and then last but not least, we do have Dark Verde, who is an attacker type. She's coming in with 31k HP, which, didn't one of the balance mons have 32k HP? Interesting. A 2.9k attack stat and also 2.5k defense. Remember, since she is also a dark type, she does get that innate crit damage boost. But once again, just because she's a dark type doesn't mean that you need to build her out for complete damage. It doesn't mean that at all. Just something that you should keep in your mind in case a scenario where the skills align with her being a dark type and promotes damage here. But let's take a look at these said skills. So for her 3-star skill, she has sap, which grants an 80% chance to inflict 3 types of sap for 1 turn. Okay, it's not that bad. Good rate up there, and 3 types of sap is pretty potent. And then for her 5-star skill, she has 70% chance to inflict 2 types of saps for 2 turns. Once again, very, very potent for what you're getting, in terms of money's worth already. This is me saying, if you're spending 48 Astramon, pray that you Evo 3, hopefully this one. If not, one of the other 2 baby girls I'll probably bring up at the end of the video here. But already with her kit being purely sap, obviously using her in golems would be a very, very big brain idea. You could also bring her into, I believe it's Water Colossus, that you can cheese either with puncture or sap, and this is a great sapper to bring in there because of her high probability of her sap sticking and just the potency behind it. So a very, very good sapper. I'm not saying you need, Fire Persephone. I'm not saying you need Water Artemis. I'm saying that this baby girl can get the job done for you. But taking a look at her skills though, her 3 times sap for her 3-star skill, that is, receives a 15% damage boost and goes up to 90% for 1 turn. Once again, that's pretty damn good. And then for her 5-star sap, that also receives a 20% damage boost. Okay, and it goes up to, what is that? 80% chance for 2 turns. That's still really good rates. Honestly, really good rates. So overall, a very good sapper. If you guys haven't checked out my sappers tier list, feel free to do that. As always, check it out to see what Astramon are worth your time and what is not. And in this case, this is 100% worth your time because, as I stated before, you don't need the top tier of the sappers to get the job done. If you can pick up a mon like this, she'll get the job done for you just fine. And I know a lot of people build their sappers more defensively, which is understandable, but if you want to, you can always throw an attack gem up on her, and if she survives, she survives. But I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here, you guys, and as always, I'll give you my quick take on all of these Astramon here. Number 1, in terms of investment, I would honestly say if you don't have a dedicated sapper, it's gonna have to be Dark Verde. If you're breaking into PvP because you're a newer player, then maybe think about going for Light Verde instead. So those 2 baby girls are gonna be my first 2 recommended choices. After that, if you want to play with fire, literally play with fire, and pull an Evo 3 a Fire Verde at this point in the game, not saying anything's happened to MSL, but in terms of just better Astramon existing, that is up to you. That is up to you. Yes, a Courageous Striker is better than nothing, but she just feels so anemic at this point and out of place. And if they switch her skills from having blind on her 3-star skill to her 5-star skill instead, then I feel like she would be a lot more reasonable. But with her current kit and her stat distribution, Fire Verde that is, it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then following that, I already forgot what Water and Wood's kit were because they're just absolutely garbage. The other 2, purely for the Astro Guide. All of these can be for the Astro Guide, but in terms of usage, it's going to be those top 3. But thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to leave in the comments below about what you guys think about Verde. Do you still use your Verde to this day? More videos on the way, and if I need to update any more Astramon reviews, feel free to leave those in the comments as well because I do have a list, and those videos will be coming out here in the future, so stay tuned.